everyone. My name is Laura, you know me. And today is our first conversation in MotherTales. And I'm really excited to have Krista in this first conversation here. The reason why, so Krista will introduce herself very soon, but she's a dear friend of mine. And she's not a mother. This is what makes the conversation really interesting, because one of the reasons why, and you will understand as well in the conversation, why I invited Krista in this first conversation in YouTube, is because I love how she understand creation from an energetic point of view, and how she used creativity or creation in her life. So welcome, Krista, and please, if you wish, introduce yourself a little bit about whatever you want, about you, about your life. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I have no idea where this conversation's going to go, but I'm kind of excited to talk about the subject with you. I think it's really fascinating thing to think about mothering and the idea of MotherTales. I mean, which you and I have been discussing for a few weeks now. Yes. In a way that I feel really excited about, you know, just sort of thinking about more. So, yeah, I'm, yeah, so I'm somebody who, thought when I was quite young that I would not have children, that I didn't want children. My background, I don't come from a super healthy dynamic of family, of origin, you know, family background. You know, I'm sure I don't have the worst history in the world, but I definitely had a family with, you know, a lot of issues and a lot of kind of dysfunctionality. I didn't get mothered particularly well myself. And I've one sibling who's 3 years younger than me. So I have, I was the oldest, and I have a sister. And then much later, my father had another child. And so I've got one half sibling. But basically, I grew up with one younger sister, and just there were a lot of challenges in our growing up that I came out of, you know, into young adulthood thinking I'm never having kids, you know. No. I thought I would be a terrible parent, honestly. I didn't have good self-esteem. I didn't feel very good about myself. Didn't really know what I wanted to do really in the world. And though I've had a really rich journey since then, it wasn't planned. Nobody helped me plan it. It didn't really, you know, I wasn't somebody that kind of came out of the gate like, woo, you know, here I go. So I started out, you know, leaving home right at 17, 18. I had gotten accepted to UCLA, which was, you know, really amazing, good school to get accepted into the design program. I was going to go into the motion picture program, I thought, and you know, basically I just thought, oh, thank God I'm leaving home. I'm getting away from crazy people, and I just thought, yeah, I just didn't think I would have children. I didn't think I would be a good parent, and I guess I probably thought I was going to be the next, you know, female Steven Spielberg or something, but none of that necessarily happened. But without going into every detail of my background or biography, different things happened. I went my road. I dropped out of school at a certain point. I did get into the animation field for quite a few years, very young. So I was still sort of had a career, was, you know, had a trajectory that seemed fun or exciting or successful or whatever you want to call it at a pretty young age. But ultimately not very satisfied at a deeper level.
Yeah.
But now, you know, now my spiritual journey, I'm much more able in hindsight to look back and see where all of that was the fertilizer, you know, so now we're getting into the answer to your question about, you know, what MotherTales, like what is all of this? What is this about? This mothering concept.
Yeah.
You know?
And even how did you transform your life? Because you say that your life, it wasn't that excitement when you, it was exciting when you left home.
Yeah.
And then what did it happen? How did you, when did you start transforming your life? Because you said that there was something inside you that wasn't satisfying.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well, okay. So then we get, yeah. So we get into some interesting shifts of the pendulum at that point. So, as I said, I had left school, gone just straight into opportunities of career, still was feeling empty, I guess, inside. So, you know, that sort of empty womb, you know, empty.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I still wasn't really necessarily equating that with the desire to have children. But I definitely didn't feel like fulfilled by my career. And I was not in particularly healthy partnership relationship. I mean, I was dating somebody quite a bit older than me, and yeah. So I mean, I was really like hoping or wishing for my career to be the fulfilling thing, and it wasn't. And I'm still talking about, I was only like 22, 23 years old. I mean, now people barely like launch, you know, but I was already like gone from home 5 or 6 years. By the time I was like 22, I was already an associate producer level. Wow. You know, in my field. You know, so and I felt almost suicidal. I mean, I mean, to be quite frank, I was not. Yeah. I didn't feel
happy inside.
I did not feel happy inside, and so at that point, I made some big decisions, some big life decisions around 22, 23 years old that I decided to go back to school. You know, I decided that the career was sort of like not, you know, if I kept going, it would be successful by some sort of external standpoint, but you know, it wasn't feeding me. So so I went through some changes and things, and ultimately ended up reapplying, getting accepted into, and deciding to go back to finish an undergraduate degree when I was about 23, 24 years old. And I picked the opposite of UCLA. I picked I think the second smallest college, accredited college in the United States at the time. I mean, it had like 200 students. It was on the East Coast where I had never lived or even visited, you know. So I basically just pulled my life out of one place, completely reseeded it with a new vision, and went, you know, in this
big change.
All big changes. Yeah. And that took me a couple of years to make happen, but anyway, so still by today's standards, I would say I was quite young, even still at that point, and a lot had already happened. You know, I already feel like I had lived several lifetimes of my adult life, you know, in 5 or 6 years, and now was finding myself at a new place, starting over in college with a bunch of 18-year-olds. So then, you know, I felt like quite old at that point at 23.
You were not old.
But... No, not at all. You know, now, I mean, I just laugh at that. But this is all part of this conversation. I mean, this topic. So I think it's worth mentioning or sharing here. So so there I was on the East Coast in New England, kind of embodying a sort of a mother energy. I ended up becoming an RA, which is basically like a dorm mother. And it's funny because now I'm still friends with a few of my, I had an 18-year-old guy in there that I'm still friends with. You know, we're both over 50 now. So it's funny to look back, you know, at those, you know, at that time in life. But so yeah, I think I was already at that point starting to realize that I had mother qualities. I had nurture in me that I hadn't recognized.
And can I ask you, why do you think, like, because this is common for many people, why do you think we either hide or don't recognize this element that belongs to everyone?
Yeah. Well, like I say, I think a lot of us carry our baggage, you know, our distorted views that we've gathered through experiences in our lives as children, as young adults, of what we think a parent needs to be, ought to be, and that can be based on distortions in happy families as well as families like mine that I saw as being pretty screwed up. You know, I'm sure my parents didn't think they were screwed up, but you know,
most of our families.
You know? So But honestly, I mean, I've been over the years, and I have gone through trajectory, which if it comes up naturally in this conversation, I hope it does, where I went totally the other way and was like, and now I'm ready to have kids. Like now, my biological clock is ticking, and now I think I do want to, I do want to have a child. So I didn't stay consistently in my life clear that I just didn't want to be a mother. I had a trajectory, but now I'm not, I've sort of made that choice, and I'm not going to be, well, I certainly will not biologically be having children at this point, and I'm not planning on really adopting or anything like that, though I'm open to situations where I can lend what I am if they arise. So that's sort of my matured view of where I'm at now. But getting from there to here, well, I'll just say I went back to school. I got a creative degree. I had another film career. I moved a few times. I went back to school and got a master's, and most of the way through a PhD in psychology. So I became very interested in how people make choices, what people do, why. I became a student of human nature, at a certain point. And the reason I share that is because in my choice to not have children early, not do the things that would make that happen, get married, get pregnant, and have children before I would have time to go, wait a minute, hello, like, do I want this? Does it make me happy? By the time I was contemplating it, I was already, in my 30s, and already worrying about like, oh, have I already run out of time? I mean, so and then later, what came back, pendulum swing to some understanding that that there was a lot of societal pressure that had then led me through that middle period, and biological probably as well, and then I had some opportunity to be a nanny, actually, or I don't know, I call it kid wrangler, because they were tweens and teens, at the time. They weren't like babies, but I was like very established in a family that depended on me, and that there was a lot of love between me and the professional single mom that I was working with in this way for a few years. And it became real, and by then I was in my late 40s, and probably at the latest juncture I could possibly be at, still considering having children of my own. And I realized during that job, and this is where you and I have talked about this a little bit before, I realized, no, like I don't, I
it was
really,
a confirmation.
It was confirmation of the earlier choices. I loved those kids, but I only had the bandwidth or the juice or the desire, this same creative thing that you and I want to talk about, the greater feeling of mothering, of birthing as a creative impulse, which is, I think, what MotherTales, I hope, will really be able to explore over time, I can see there's a need to talk about these things and have dialogues with lots of different people, lots of different humans, men, women, transgender people, like people that have had very varied backgrounds, all have something really profound to say about mothering. And so in my journey and looking back at that point, I became really aware of culturally, how much pressure and gaslighting, honestly, a lot of us get, especially, right? I mean, especially.
Yeah, and also I want to say that it takes courage to actually know the truth, your truth.
Yeah.
My truth, your truth, everyone's truth, and be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
And make then the choice that is aligned with ourselves. Because as you said, most of the times, maybe we know that we want to have children or we don't want to have children, or we want to, create a project, or we want to do something, and we are maybe stuck in a job that we don't like, or maybe we are stuck in a relationship that is not aligned with us, and we then make choices that eventually are not aligned, and then our lives won't be as authentic as we wish. So I think it takes courage to be honest and know the truth and look at the truth and say, okay, this is who I am. This is where I want to go in my life, what I desire for myself, and honor it. Own it and honor it. And I don't think many people do that. And not because they're wrong or they don't have the capacity. It's just because of, as you said, the way how we grew up, the way the society, the culture, many different things together.
Yes, many things, and many things that ultimately they don't have anything to do with being authentic. Even if you are attempting to live authentically, there's so much that we're weighted down with as a human being, as an individual human being. And, even like I said, even by the time you're 15, 18 years old, you're already carrying an enormous weight of baggage. Children carry enormous weights and baggage. Ultimate, even, not to go too much into my spiritual journey, but, there's past life things. There's, I know for myself that, I have access to, other memory of experience that is beyond this, even this life, that I can barely probably fit in a conversation with you. We'll finish talking and I will have seemed like I talked about a whole, like 8, 5, 8, 10, lifetimes of my own life in a half century old body. And that's not even a pinprick, in what we actually are, and the baggage that we're carrying. And whether you're somebody that is more science oriented, I think what we're understanding is that our cells, we have cellular memory, and that literally through our mother's womb, through our mother's
and grandmothers too,
trauma, right? So there's the physical lineal or ancestral lineage trauma that we carry in our cells that has actually scientifically been
proven.
Proven, and which we're starting to explore and understand. And then you get into the spiritual realms where you realize, like, okay, there are other timelines, there's other that there's may pop time travel things forward and backwards. Things are not as they appear. I think more and more people are having access to those types of realizations for themselves. And then you start to realize, like you could be carrying so much more that isn't even yours, in this life, that is traumatic or wrong, or just not yours. And then here we all are together in the present, and everybody's muddling along trying to make their own best choices about whether to be a dentist or a baker or a lawyer, or a filmmaker, as I ended up being at a certain point, or a mother. Do I marry this person or that person? Do I adopt? Do we have babies? Do we have one baby or 5 babies? What happens when you decide you fall in love, you know you're going to be forever with this person, you're got money in the bank, you have you decide to start trying, you have a little trouble, you do some in vitro, and you end up with triplets, or like my father, married somebody much younger than him, and they had a baby, my half sister, who was born with severe cerebral palsy, serious birth defects. And my dad spent, his last 25 years of life until he passed away. So from 55, 50, whatever he was, in his early 50s to in his early 70s, with a severely disabled child. Very, very sad situation. Very depressed, barely coping. Not a happy situation, not able to dig himself out, not able to pivot, not able to reset or make new decision, so things don't always go as planned. I think most of us realize that, like, life is not, you can have all the plans in the world.
I have 2 questions for you from what you say.
I talk a lot, I'm sorry, but
the first one actually is from what you just shared. The first one is knowing that we have this baggage of history, family and ancestors and life, knowing that, how can we create, and from a place that is ours, create from something that is aligned from our soul or whatever. I don't know if you have a best words to explain, but better words to explain what I'm trying to say, but how can we create from here and not here, or from our baggage of history and family, etc.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for anybody else. For myself, I have been drawn to learning certain tools that work for me. that help me come into my body to make more body-centered experience.
Yeah.
In the now, choice about where, you know, I basically see my experience at this point as you know, that my relationship with source, you know, if somebody wants to call that God or goddess, or, you know,
Universe or creator,
Allah, the
Jesus.
universe,
Yeah.
creator. I mean, all any of those terminology. Though I think language is important, and in each of those like realms of the of how we language it to ourselves is also part of the cutting away of what's authentic and what's not. So for myself, for example, I don't use the word God or creator even, or the universe. I used to use that a lot because I wasn't particularly religious. But I don't even use that anymore because I realized like the old actress Shirley MacLaine used to say, like, I am God, you know what I mean? Like I am, you know, and that used to sound like nonsense to me, but I really, I get that for me now, my creative purpose, the real purpose, and my feeling is that each of our real purpose to even be here on this little blue marble, you know, at this time together, you know, witnessing each other and expressing and experiencing a life where we meet each other and have relationships and love each other and do things, and is that creation source, that spark that is the undistorted, the most undistorted aspect of truth, that isn't all of that baggage. It's not all those stories from our mind or our emotions or our history or our hopes for the future, you know, that any of that stuff, that all kind of comes from here, or they come from the culture, or they come from what we were taught, or they come from implanted memories from, you know, whatever, you know, whatever your belief system is, it doesn't really matter. It's not this. So when I say, like Shirley MacLaine, like, I get it now, like I am, you know, I am
source.
Source. That's where my authenticity comes from. To me, like, that's what sovereignty is. And it's not that you become like crystal clear on a plan. In fact, you let go of having a plan. You can have creative impulses that are a desired trajectory. Like, I want to write a book, or I want to launch a YouTube channel, or I want to be a baker, or I want to open a business, you know, or I just want to have an umbrella drink in my hand and sit on the beach, you know, for the
rest. That would be nice.
Yeah. Well, you know, that is again, see, okay, that is a perfect example. Most people if they were honest with themselves and realized from that place that that is really, really what they want, not because they're burned out and they feel like, oh my God, like I wish I could just sit on a beach with an umbrella drink. Wouldn't that be nice? But a real understanding that their joy is to somehow go within in a natural place and do nothing. And I've had a few years where I've had the great grace and luck, or is it source coming through me that I made enough space to allow it. I've had 3 or 4 years where I could, in effect, sit on a beach and drink an umbrella drink every day for 4 years if I wanted. As it turned out, I filled it up with many things, some umbrella drinks and many other things that were not that. Some fun and some I wouldn't have thought I would have chosen, but they have been deep learning and growth for me. So, but I guess what I want to say is, there's a lot of cultural baggage that would say nobody should be allowed or get to do that. That's bullshit. Why should anybody, if everybody sat around with an umbrella drink, everything would come to a grinding halt. We would, civilization as we know it would end. Okay, well, actually, we've just gone through 2.5 years where we found out, if I disappear and I'm in my house and I don't have a job anymore, but somehow I'm managing to continue, the world didn't come to a grinding halt without me, being on a hamster wheel. Whatever that hamster wheel that I thought it was, it got taken away from me. I got told, go home and wait, and a lot of people did that. Millions of people did that.
Can I say something? I think is one of the reason is because we talked a lot about connection. You just, you talked about, connecting here and not here. And I think, it's because this society, the majority of people, and this is part of the awakening, what's happening now, but majority of people is completely disconnected because I know many people that they are burnout, they work crazy hours, they do something that they don't love, they work in a place that they don't love, and then when they're at home, because I don't know, because of many reasons, because of they left them home or whatever it is, they don't know what to do and they're lost. And I believe personally that is because we are not taught to actually do what we love and create, but just be, producing for others and not producing for ourselves.
Right. And we're taught that it's intrinsically bad or even potentially evil to do nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are religions that, or family systems or cultures that it's so deeply programmed that you would be a bad person.
Yeah.
Perhaps even hellbound, but at very least, not a productive member of society if you're not doing something. So even if you had all the money in the world and you didn't have to work, a lot of people feel like if I'm not doing something of service, like for other people, I'm bad.
Yeah.
And actually, that is a profound I'm sharing here. So this is me offering something of my mother tale. You know, my journey is, I can say, after some of experience of being free through choices and through some luck, to explore not having to be available to anybody. And in fact, even when I wanted to be available, not having anybody invite me to do anything for them. And even when I was like, hey, I'm free, I could come and do this, I could come and do that. I have time, I have availability, I have money, I can invest, you know, like I want to create. And here I am. I mean, I've learned many lessons in the last 3 or 4 years of like, wow, like nobody really needs me or wants me to do anything. You know, like I could foist myself into some situation or circumstance because it's so uncomfortable to not be of service in this exact moment. Nobody's demanding anything of me. And I have the freedom to create something, but I don't have any idea of what to create, and I don't have anybody that is asking me to do it, nor do I have enough of a energetic impulse to make something in particular right now. You know, I've been in this exploration for some amount of time, and honestly, what I've learned and what I would share is Source doesn't need us to be busy or be of service in the way that our minds or our culture or our programming has taught us. That all of that has been a lot of lies, a lot of,
and also the way how we see mothers, because all mothers are seen like they have to be overgiver, otherwise they're not mothers.
and it's a horrible distortion.
Yeah, all the feminine energy, how you want to call it, it's not just mothers, this feminine energy that that overgive, that gives everything she or he has.
Yeah, and a lot of that is because we're carrying deep wounds around. If I don't do that, I must be a very bad person. I must be a very bad person to look in the mirror while I'm brushing my teeth in the morning and think, I wish I could just sit on a beach with an umbrella drink. If I'm honest with myself, I'm sitting here brushing my teeth, like, I wish I could do that. And then you immediately tell yourself, you are a very bad person. Like, what a horrible, selfish creature you are. Like, what a lazy, no good, nobody gets to do that. Well, why do we think that? Why do we feel that? And there's nowhere else to find the answer for you about why you think and feel that, except to go
inside,
realize that we are Source. So this brings me back to my work.
Yeah.
What I've realized for me is, I'm not here necessarily to work really hard. Ironically, the more I have allowed that, the more I allowed that possibility and allowed that desire, that impulse to rest, that profound need that I had maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago, where I felt so weary, as you were describing, like many people, like I'd been beaten, by the hard work. You know, I worked for many years in the film industry where we regularly worked 12 to 14-hour days. You literally did nothing but go home, sleep for 6-7 hours, and throw some back on and go back on a set. So, and then, you know, parenting too. I mean, how many people have a job, you know, especially before the last 2.5 years, you had a job, you had a 1, 2, 3 hour commute. I know people in the region of Northern California where I lived. I knew many people that had a daily Monday through Friday commute of 3 to 4 hours. 3 to 4 hours in a car, and then an 8 to 10 hour day. And if you were a child, you know, parent, you know, you were married, somehow you've also got to have, you know, date night or something. I don't know. Somehow you're supposed to have an actual partnership with your significant other, and then you've got children. And as most people that do have children and are parents in the more conventional way than myself, you give everything to your children, you know, like your life force, you know, becomes often, you know, very like they're the most important thing, right? They're the reason you're doing all these other things. I mean, how can you even carve out like 6 hours of sleep a night? I mean, who wouldn't be weary if that is normal life? And then all of a sudden, for the last couple of years, everybody either had to switch and do a lot of that from home, or everything radically changed and suddenly they found themselves doing nothing, you know, like for extended periods of time. And either way, I think a lot of people have had to go inward, as I had already begun a journey of doing. But it's really uncomfortable.
Yes.
This is actually to tap into this and realize you are the creator of your reality. That if it sucks or if it's gorgeous, you're creating it for you. And all those other people, maybe even people that you've blamed for a lifetime, if they'd only done this, or if only that hadn't happened, or if only I'd had this lucky break, things would be different, or I had more money in the bank, or I had more time, but I'm so tired, or I had more money, but I'm so broke. You know, I mean, how many people are running these thought patterns? And those patterns, if they're not interrupted, can suck up 80 years and you're done. You know,
yes,
it's over. Goodbye. Who knows where you go?
If you feed them, you know, and you spend your life feeding these thoughts and believing these thoughts, then they become your life.
Yeah. And there's nothing bad or wrong about you if that is the case, because I believe I believe all of us on earth have come here to wake up through that experience. So there's not a single one of us as humans being who hasn't started out in that fertilizer, that very rich, loamy, beautiful soil that we got planted in as this person. You know, really rich soil is got a lot of shit in it. It's got worms, it's got bugs, it's got microorganisms that aren't part of the dirt. It's got literally shit in it, you know. And if you have dirt that doesn't have lots of shit in it, it don't grow anything, you know. Like, And so I think all of us have come to be a human, to live, to learn how to live, and to really live, as you're describing, is to allow creation to flow through us unimpaired. I feel emotional even saying that, because this is why I'm here, and I know that this is why we're here, and even when it can be a lonely or a solo process, yeah, ultimately we're here to do it together. We're here to play together. And I feel that is where we're at now. I mean, but you can't get there you can't get here by, as long as you're afraid to go here, because it's terrifying.
Yeah.
To take that 100% responsibility into yourself, that you are actually the source, that you've said, oh, source will save me, the universe will save me, God will save me, Jesus will save me, Allah will save me if I'm good, if I do this, if I do that, if I do what I'm told, or I listen, blah blah. Like, if I color in the numbers rather than outside the numbers, somehow I'm going to be okay, right? Somehow all things will be okay. And, maybe I'll have, if I'm lucky, a pretty happy life with good people, and leave my children a legacy, and, a happily ever after story. That would be the best, imagining a lot of people have. But if you haven't gone here at that moment where you're done, I am not sure that even if you've lived the most perfect looking arc of all of that, if you never could go here because it was too scary. And so all of that, even the most beautiful version of it, was a running away from being the mother and the father, boom, of your own creation of what is through this body. If you don't even know what I'm talking about, if you're still listening to this and you don't know what I'm talking about, or, you kind of do know what I'm talking about, but you're like, I don't want to know, because that sounds too much or too scary. Then I know, sister or brother, because I've been there too. It would be natural to run away. And then yet there's no way to get there while you're that busy. You cannot do it. So while you're parenting babies and building things and building big companies and making things happen and reading books and, watching the news and doing whatever it is, not leaning in to this, because, okay, this is my essential answer to your question about MotherTales, as opposed to just parenting or father and mother tales. This within, that is the mother, it's empty. It's not something. It's no thing. It's a womb.
Yeah, it's the void. It's the emptiness.
It's the emptiness. And all of us embody both. But we've lived in a world where all of the emphasis has been put on the spark of life, the life force, the spark being the important thing. And, you know, different people respond to that different. They've tried to control other people's spark, or, you know, think they know what their spark is, you know, which a lot of people probably equate with their own creativity, right? You know, their own, what they want to make in the world, what they want to build, and then how successful they are at it is how good are they at marshaling, you know, resources in the 3D world to make things happen. But ultimately, my mother tale, our mothering, that is profoundly ignored in this world is the void.
Mm-hmm.
And almost all writers or artists, painters, you know, visual artists, people that I know have some inkling of that. You need fallow time, you need downtime to get creative. You get burned out, and
you need to go into the void to create.
Go into the void, yeah. And so people that do that, I think, create beautiful things sometimes, you know, because they allow for it. I'm starting to find myself called out, where for a long time I sat around going, hey, I can't, you know, I want to go here or there, or my mind tells me this project or that project, you know, I would willingly throw myself into, and somehow it's just not happening. It's not, you know, or I would spend many years doing something that then I'd be like, wow, that feels not true. You know, I just wasted 3 years or 5 years because I realized that didn't come from me. You know, I was running around trying to be a good person, trying to be of service, trying to be useful, you know, thinking I'm being creative instead of, whereas I was just running away from
inside,
the hideous discomfort of the reality that I am.
And this is also why people spend a lot of time, you were saying before, planning. You know, there is so much planning, even, you know, in pregnancy I see that. And even when pregnancy is not possible or doesn't come naturally or spontaneously, there is a lot of planning, a lot of, you know, with IVF, the in vitro, or even when we create at work, or I'm not saying if you are an artist, because I think if you are an artist, as you said before, normally you tend to go into the void more, at least what I believe. But if you know, like if you work and there is lots of planning and lots of doing, even nowadays in pregnancy, you have to plan, you have to have everything figure it out. And so, yes, so that brings me to what you were saying, that doing and planning, it distracts us from the emptiness, from going inside. And so also, you know, from embracing the mothering energy. So embracing the, however you want to call it, the mothering energy that allows us to connect with ourselves.
Yeah. And it's ultimately what calls in the spark of creation. I think one of the, or I feel that I've learned, or I see now, I recognize that the spark isn't meant to be the leader. And most of our understanding of how we are in the world is based on a big distortion, which is that the spark leads, right? That masculine yang active energy, even if it's in a woman, in a female body,
Yeah.
you know, if you don't, you know, shit or get off the pot, you know, if you don't move, if you don't do something, right, nothing's going to happen. And that's true. But it's the intuitive trust that nothing is okay, that nothing is not only okay, it's actually the leading piece of, you know, peace, P-I-E-C-E, but also P-E-A-C-E. You know, it's we must learn to let this thing that none of us really understand. We can't understand it because it's not of the mind. We can't understand it because it's not a thing. It's an absence of a thing. And that's what's so terrifying about it. You know, I mean, that's what's so terrifying about it. It's like removes all anything, you know, the ego, the aspects of life, you know, what we think of as being alive, you know, it's not that. It's empty. It's nothing. But it being allowed, and then it in its emptiness calling to be filled, to use a sexual metaphor, that creates harmony, that creates authenticity. So when you say, how do we find our authentic creation, that's it. I mean, that's it. Our intuition, our inner mother, undistorted, not the mothering we think we know from all the mothers we ever saw on TV, or, you know, our own mothers, or the mother we hope we are, you know, or whatever, you know, none of that, although that's all aspects of mothering, and not even the creative process of birthing a project, an idea, a vision, whatever.
Yeah.
That's when that's the two together. Those things we can see are the two together. But the spark can't decide for true creation. It's actually that intuitive, that empty, that nothing, that void in its pure essence of allowing it to be the container, be the vessel, whatever. I know this sounds very heady, you know, some people will either get it, and if they don't get it, you know, maybe they'll come back and listen later or something. But it chooses, it just, that is where the authentic creation comes, is when that patience, that allowance, that emptiness gets to just be. And it doesn't get interrupted, by all of these plans, all of these ideas, all these little sparks trying to say like me, but just.
Yeah. And I found it very interesting that I think recently many people resign from their job. They want to do something different. They want to sit and in emptiness. And even myself, I did that. And it's not easy. It's very difficult to do that and wait. And you think, oh my God, what am I waiting for? What shall I do? What, blah, blah, blah. So many things come in mind. But then, yes, in the emptiness, then at least for me, it's like when I sit in the emptiness, when I sit in the void, is when I create. But I need to sit with that. I'm not saying suffering, but it's painful. It can be painful
until it's not.
Until that changes, and it's not.
Yeah. The pain is actually, I think, or I feel, is us running away from it.
The truth. It's running away from the truth.
Yeah, because it is not painful. It is nothing.
Yeah.
What we experience as painful is it's like the black hole singularity, right? I mean, what we see, the reason we can even find these things is because we see where the stuff is going in at the end. You can't see the empty part. What you see is that the event horizon, where anything that's getting sucked into it. So, I think what we experience is anxiety or pain of like how uncomfortable it is to be in the nothing is actually not when we're in the nothing. It's when we're at the edge of the nothing and we're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. No, I don't want to go in there. I can't go in there. I'll cease to exist. And you will be not you. You will cease to exist. Your existence as you know it is not in there. It is not in there. And the terror is what we experience as suffering or like it's painful, or impatience, it's painful to wait. Well, what am I doing? I'm just sitting here like, why can't I get something going? And it's like, but that's all just not allowing that this may be a long time. This may be a long time with no thing, nothing, and that we don't control it. It could be a long time, or it could be no time. It could be instantaneously called into creation, but only by going in. So as long as you're sort of like stay in that discomfort, that edge, that discomfort state, you're actually not allowing the full sinking into the nothing, which then once you do that, once you allow it, it does get filled. It does get filled, not by what you thought, not by what you planned, but by what source chooses, welcomes to fill it with. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a good place to, end a conversation. I mean,
It's really interesting, this conversation. I think we could go over forever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you the last question, which is just to conclude this conversation. Do you want to add anything from what we said um, about mothering? Why this mothering energy creation it's so important now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I believe that there are reasons that we've all gone through what we've been through recently, that what we're in right now is not an accident, that has been that it is being created, that we are creating it together as reality, you know, to birth something. I use the term new earth. I find more and more, I find the more that I have allowed myself to use that term, that my life is now filled with other people that are completely comfortable with and use that term as well. Whereas, you know, when I first ever heard that in my own mind, I never heard anybody else say it, and it sounded goofy, you know. Apparently it's not goofy anymore, you know. There's
It's a
lots of
thing now.
it's a thing now, and there's lots of us. And so you know, whatever you call it, you know, Terra Nova, or, you know, like whatever, or, you know, even to not call it anything, you know, a movement. You know, Russell Brand is somebody that I watch and follow and like a lot, and he talks about it. It's like we are at a place where we are creating, you know, we're creating this now together. And the more people that have the courage to do what you and I have just been talking about, and where we just ended, to allow the discomfort to cross that event horizon through that discomfort into themselves, to find their void, to dive into the mother source, the womb, the void, the, you know, to allow that within, that whatever happens on the other side of that is a collective rebirth. When we are rebirthing, we are birthing new earth, you know, we're birthing something different. It's not we're going to go shooting off to some other place, you know, in the sky or another planet or something. It's a frequency. We're raising ourselves. You know, a lot of people want to raise healthy children, you know, to adulthood. Well, Gaia is doing that. The earth is doing that. Each of us are doing this within ourselves. We're birthing something. So that would be where I would end this, to say, or want to say to anybody who's listening or thinking about any of this. What world do you want to create? You know?
Yeah.
Well, what feeds you to participate in building, not from a plan or the mind, but once you allow this, where do you find it takes you? And you won't know until you go, so you have to be willing to go. But my experiences, amazing things happen arise and continue to arise, the more that frequency is allowed. So let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's build a world. Let's make a world. Let's allow a world that isn't a hot mess. Like, let's allow a world that we do want to create, that we do want to birth.
Yeah.
And the only way to get there is not to wait for somebody else to build it, or blame or plan or try to be of service when you don't really even know. This is the way. This is the way. That's my feeling. So
thank you. Yeah. The way is in.
Yeah.
Thank you for this conversation. I'm going dark, so it's a good place to end.
The light. Yes.
Thank you, Krista, for this conversation, and maybe we'll do other later. We'll do more conversation together. But thank you for now. And let's build this new earth together. Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to what you do with this channel. And I'm super excited. I know it's part of it. So
yes, it is. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.